popular support for the takeover appeared to be universal and spontaneous. Everywhere, charges were voiced that Nkrumah turned Ghana into a police state, reduced it to bankruptcy, and then, to get out of debt, put it in pawn to the communists.
In Ghana, when a ruler is useless, you depose him. And therefore, we have deposed Kwame Nkrumah. We don't want tyranny or anything.
Kwame Nkrumah, the Asajifo, the Redeemer, the dictator of Ghana, lies in the dust, a children's foot on his face. That is the lesson of this week's coup d'etat in Ghana. It's been a remarkable revolution, one of the most remarkable in Africa for a number of reasons. For one thing, the realization that he was utterly detested by just about everyone in Ghana. And the feeling of complete liberation that greeted one on arrival in Accra after the coup. When Ghana became independent in 1957, Britain's first colony to do so, it carried with it the hopes of Africa for a new and free Africa. Those hopes were turned into bitter disappointments by Nkrumah and led many people to believe that Africa and democracy didn't go together. What happened last Thursday has, to some extent anyway, redressed that balance and given Ghana the chance for a fresh start.
A popular revolution, the end of a regime whose opponents had been shut away in prison by the hundred. Now, in the turbulent hours after last Thursday's takeover, the crowds wait for Nkrumah's victims to be freed, and for the men who'd supported him to take their turn in Fort Usher jail. In the two-way traffic of liberation, some are luckier than others. Many of Nkrumah's supporters got away, others had no chance. Into the cells go the ex-Redeemer's ministers. With them, at gunpoint, go scores of MPs and officials of Nkrumah's Convention People's Party. Out into the sunshine, the first of the 2,000 freed so far. Their crime, political opposition to Nkrumah. Their sentence, anything up to 10 years without formality of trial. Among those released, young men eager to fight on for the new Ghana, and old men just glad to be free. The men who set them free carried out a textbook revolution, carefully planned, swiftly executed, completely successful. Among Europeans who saw it happen was a former British colonial servant who stayed on to help Ghana after independence. Mr. James Moxon tells of the dawn takeover.
Firing started, I think, about 5 o'clock in the morning and intensified as the morning went on. And of course, as I lived just outside Flagstaff House, and that was one of the main centers of resistance, particularly from the security people, of course we had quite a lot of bullets flying around.
The first I heard of it was walking along the corridor to go down to breakfast, and the news came over one of the radios in the bedrooms. I didn't actually hear the announcement, but some of the cleaning staff in the corridor heard it and immediately expressed, to my mind, great delight, and then immediately rushed up and told me about it.
What did they say?
I think they said, we're free, no more president, no more Nkrumah.
But did, in fact, the troops surround the airport and take it over?
Oh, well, this was announced on the radio, and of course they did. One of the announcements said that the airport had been closed for traffic and had been taken over, surrounded by the troops, just as a security measure.
Troops still guarded the airport when Reporting 66 team flew in the next day, but everything was already under control. On the night before the coup, truckloads of troops had moved into Ankrah. Within 24 hours, the army and the police had the whole country in their power. At Flagstaff House, Nkrumah's guards offered brief resistance. 30 were reported killed, plus 11 Russian technicians and security men who lived inside Flagstaff House. Other Russians were bundled out of the country, while Ghanaians set about removing the concrete symbols of Nkrumah's Marxist regime. Popular support for the takeover appeared to be universal and spontaneous. Everywhere, charges were voiced that Nkrumah turned Ghana into a police state, reduced it to bankruptcy, and then, to get out of debt, put it in pawn to the communists. But while discarding communist philosophies, Ghana's new rulers are keeping the door open. They've taken no decision yet to break off relations with China or with Russia. But what of the man of the moment? Nkrumah himself was on a well-timed trip to Peking when the blow came. He'd stopped off on the way at Cairo, where his Egyptian wife has taken refuge. And he's still got one friend in President Nasser. After Cairo, Nkrumah stopped off in New Delhi to visit India's Prime Minister, Mrs. Gandhi. They discussed his projected peace mission to North Vietnam. But Nkrumah never got as far as Hanoi. It was on arrival in Peking that Chinese leaders broke the news to Nkrumah of his downfall. Mystery surrounded his immediate plans. Conflicting reports said he was going back to Accra, that he was going to Cairo, that he'd gone to Addis Ababa to appeal to the current Conference of African States. In the end, he flew to Moscow on the way to Guinea. But even the Russians are expected to recognize the new regime. In London, while the government held back from the immediate recognition, Ghanaian students were not holding anything back. Also in London, a Ghanaian who claimed leadership of a so-called Revolutionary Council. He said they had masterminded the coup from a flat in West Kensington. His name, Daniel Amir.
We had the okay yesterday about nearly 10 o'clock. We were ready, all waiting, anxiously waiting and sweating. We gave our order go ahead yesterday in the morning, and in the evening we had the reply that order received and operation is ready, stand by for further instructions.
It was a jaunty Mr. Amir who left London next day. But the attention he received in Accra wasn't quite what he'd had in mind. Whatever revolution was hatched in West Kensington, it seemed, had nothing to do with that dawn coup in Accra. Mr. Amir was branded by the real revolutionaries as a charlatan and a criminal, and he was taken off for a session of public penitence at the first news conference called by Ghana's new rulers. Their leader, General Arthur Ankrah, father of 22 and former mission schoolteacher, a man who's never concealed his dislike of Nkrumah. Before dealing with Mr. Amir, he had more important business.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, I would like to introduce my colleagues to you, some of the members of the National Liberation Council. As you've already been told, I need no introduction myself. But on my left here is the Commissioner of Police, Mr. Harley, who is the Deputy Chairman of the National Liberation Council. On my right is Major General A.K. Kotoka, who is the second member or the first member of the National Liberation Council. We have called you here this morning for one specific reason, and that is you've heard the name of one Amuhia who has associated himself with this coup and had published himself in the British papers and most of the papers that is the brain behind us. And we want to prove that we were not instigated by anybody, neither we want to refute any allegation that ACA or God knows what instigated us to carry out this coup. This coup was carried out completely because of the things that had happened in Ghana and because of the tyranny and the despotism of Kwame Nkrumah, the deposed president. Everybody in Ghana was fed up with it. And therefore you could see this spontaneous result which followed the coup. You would have seen when you were coming probably thinking that Ghana would have been put under curfew or all other things, but nothing was done. There was no brain behind it. It was work from us and from within, without the aid of anybody, any foreign country or any country. It has been some of these things in Ghana that when a ruler is useless, you depose him. And therefore, we have deposed Kwame Nkrumah. We don't want tyranny or anything here. And therefore, I would like to not waste time to bring in Amu here for you to see him. And you can see that he doesn't even know. I don't know him. I haven't seen him before, neither is any of us. The only thing that we know of him since he started claiming himself was that the COP found in his records that he's a criminal who is wanted in Ghana. And we were so quiet because we wanted him. He's a criminal wanted in Ghana, so that we put him in the cold ice chest. Well, this is Mr. Amuhia. He calls himself Amuhia or Amushia or ever. His name is never spelled correct either. And we would like him to tell you how he organized this coup and how he was the brain behind it. And who he knew on this.
First and foremost, on the 24th morning, 8 o'clock news announced in London that Ghana has announced that jointly the army and the police have overthrown the regime of the tyrant, Kwame Nkrumah.
Did you come to brainwash me, Kotoka, the police, or somebody and tell us how to conduct this? Or did you try to tell us where we should, how we should organize our army or the operations to be carried out?
No, sir. This is exactly what I am coming to, sir. If I should be given the opportunity, I shall explain thoroughly as I am before you and before the world press.
General Ankrah can squash a Mir, but will he make a national leader?
Of course, he's a very, very experienced soldier. He rose from the ranks. He served in India and Burma during the war as a warrant officer. After the war, he was commissioned and rose steadily up to be a major general. He was retired a few months ago and, of course, has now been brought back as commander of the forces.
He was really kicked out by Nkrumah.
Yes, it was never announced in so many words. In fact, he took the initiative to resign, but he's always been a very popular figure, and he's certainly a remarkably fine general, and I think will be a very good leader.
Do you expect him to stay in charge of Ghana, or do you think
that I don't know at all. One doesn't know how long these military regimes have to last.
The one-man regime of Nkrumah lasted 9 years. Where did the Redeemer go wrong?
Well, the new council have described it by saying that he seemed to act as though Ghana was his personal property, which perhaps amounts to the same sort of thing. But these sort of feelings tend to build up, and I think people appear to be ready for a change of government. And of course, in this type of government, the only way you can get a change of government is by overthrow.
The overthrow of Nkrumah brought public jubilation in Accra, in sharp contrast to Ghana's near neighbor, Nigeria. When the army took over there in January, there was simply a stunned acceptance by the public. Nothing like this. Outside Fort Usher prison, the crowd are waiting for the release of more of Nkrumah's political prisoners.
What did you have mainly against Kwame Nkrumah?
Because he has taken our money away, over 195 million pounds away, and we are now broke.
Oh,
we are fed up with him. We are fed up. Yes.
What is the lady waiting for?
Well, is happy.
Is happy.
According to the question you asked her before. It's very, very happy.
Are you happy too?
I'm very happy.
Look, if my brother is in the jail yard now. I'm waiting for my brother.
Yeah.
Yes.
How long has he been detained?
About 3 years or 5 years. 5 years. 5 years.
What was he detained for?
For political reason. And I don't know what my brother has done, what he has done.
He was detained because he was a political opponent of Nkrumah.
Of Nkrumah, of course, yes.
Among the released men this day, Mr. Kobla Atto, former publicity secretary of the Band United Party.
Mr. Atto, when were you arrested and for what reason?
10th November 1958. And the government declared reasons were that we were planning the forceful overthrow of the government. But the real reason was that this was the first time that you had a real opposition in Ankrah against the government party. And they were afraid we were going to beat them in Ankrah. And they thought they must do something about it. And the only way they could do it was to remove us from among the people.
How many of the members of your party were put in jail?
There were 42 of us. Actually, there were to be 43, but one man was not arrested at all. And one old man among us died when we were in detention. That was in 1960 he died.
What sort of treatment did you have?
The treatment varied. At first, we were treated fairly well. Then in 1960, when the government decided that they have to break up our party in Ashanti, where also we have strong and widespread support, they declared that some people were engaged in gangsterism and they were criminals. And when they arrested the people, they turned out to be mostly members and officials of our party, especially chiefs and traditional men in Ashanti who were chairmen of our party in the various villages. They were treated very brutally. They were beaten up. Some of them were more than 70 years, and even there were 2 or 3 who were more than 80. They were beaten. They were often stripped naked and searched.
This is on arrival in the prison?
Oh, yes. On the first arrival, in the reception room, they were slapped and beaten, kicked. And then from there, they were hurried along, pushed or beaten to the cells. And from time to time, the doors were opened and they were beaten, abused, and humiliated in all manner of ways.
From prison conditions in Accra, 130 miles north now, to another symptom of Nkrumah's regime, a training camp for African saboteurs, a closely guarded secret up till last Sunday, when the new regime opened the gates to the world's press. Until that day, even the local police hadn't been allowed in. The students inside were never allowed out.
This is a freedom fighters camp which was set up by the Kwame Nkrumah government and has been today open to the press by the new government of Ghana. It had before, about 6 months ago, about 11 Chinese instructors. They're not here today. It also had Ghanaian instructors and recruits from various African countries. Countries like South Africa and Rhodesia with so-called colonial governments. But it also had recruits from countries, independent African countries, neighbors of Ghana in some cases. The inference of today's visit is that the new Ghana government doesn't intend to follow the old policies of President Nkrumah, which they would consider to be interfering in one's neighbors' affairs and trying to subvert other African states.
20 trainee saboteurs were found here. They said they'd been lured from neighboring countries with the promise of scholarships, then taught Chinese communist doctrine, guerrilla tactics, and the use of explosives. Could it happen again in Ghana? What are the chances of Nkrumah now staging a comeback from Guinea?
I think he'd be very unwise to try, because I don't think he'd be well received. The public opinion has manifested itself very quickly in the last 2 or 3 days.
As being against him?
Yes, the public opinion has manifested itself as being against some of the policies which have affected the public. I mean, in certain respects, of course, his policies are Ghanaian policies, but in certain respects, particularly in relation to the economic situation, I think people felt that too much money had been spent on prestige, symbols, and perhaps too little on keeping the cost of living within bounds. This is the sort of thing that worries the man in the street.
Ghana's future may now depend on released United Party prisoners like Mr. Atto.
There's no vacuum in nature, and the same in human affairs. So I shall certainly be in politics. As a matter of fact, people have been telling me and many of my friends that they expect us to do better than these people, and I don't think we're going to disappoint them.
What sort of Ghana would you yourself work for now?
I have been brought up in ideas of British democracy, and before I went to prison, the people I associated with were people who thought the same, and I'm sure that they still hold those views. If you ask me what sort of ism I believe in, I say I believe in kind of socialism like that of the British Labour Party. And that is the opinion, the views of the members of the UP. And I think that's what they like. They won't have anything to do with anything called communism. They hate it. In the prison, anybody who was a UP member hated communism. And we wouldn't have it at all.
General, may I ask you a question?
Yes.
Sandy Gall, Independent Television News, London. When approximately do you expect free elections to be held in Ghana?
Oh, that is too early to answer. As you know, within the coup this week, general election can only be carried out after we've got as I said, we've got the Constitution. I mean, this Constitution, we don't want to have a dictatorship again, and therefore the Constitution will come out when everybody in the country has been given the privilege to bring about what he thinks must be embodied in the Constitution, and the Constitution has been referred to on a referendum and probably approved by the Council.
General Ankrah's first priority must be to rescue Ghana from bankruptcy.
General, it's been said that this country is going to run out of money by April. What do you intend to do about that? Are you going to ask for aid from the United States?
It's within the Economic Commission.
Do you expect that you will ask for aid from the United States?
We'll ask for aid from all countries so far.
General, do you plan to reopen diplomatic relations with Britain?
Why not? I may say why not, but we are members of the Commonwealth, and it depends on the OAU decisions, which we've sent members there now.
What happens to former President Nkrumah if he comes back here?
Oh, well, definitely we don't intend to share blood, and you will realize that even his wife we save and send back. If he comes back here, we'll only have to try him for the actual things he has done.
When Nkrumah came to power, Ghana had £200 million in the bank. Today, she has debts of £250 million. So Ghana needs sane rule fast. At present, like many other African states, she's under direct army control. But she's in no mood now for more dictatorship. Ghana's problem is to find a formula to edge back into democracy without falling into chaos.